Soma. I will just first start with the vote of thanks to Mr. Harish for giving me this opportunity, and Ms. Hiranmai for uh, my introduction, and Mr. Lilith Basin also for the giving taking this initiative for CI subcommittee and these sessions. So now, as mentioned by Mr. Khare, it's money. So when you think about land, first idea comes to mind is money. It's a residential, commercial, or infrastructure. Majority part of making residential house, it's lots of money involved in land. Similarly, commercial property, main it's like interior and all these also requires money, employees. But first thing you start with it's land. So infrastructure project, we see it's everywhere. It's the first is land, and land requires the maximum part of investment in those projects is towards land. So now that's why land is very important. And so today, I will take you through some provisions of old acquisition and new land acquisition, and whether we have achieved the objective for which the new land acquisition has brought into effect. So when we think about land, first thing is comes to mind is infrastructure. For any infrastructure, land is required, and that is a major investment. Miss Sona, please, next slide. Yes. So now, when we think about land acquisition, so it's a perspective from landowners' perspective, government's perspective, private players' perspective, and I would say also lawyers' perspective. So lawyers' perspective, I will come little later, but we'll start with landowners' perspective. So for landowners' perspective, it is they are losing their sometimes sole livelihood. Sometimes there is a lots of sentimental value attached to that property. So those are the issues from landowners' perspective. Now, next slide, please. So now government's perspective. Government's perspective is a project for private purpose. Public purpose. And what are those public purpose? So it's you take it metro, railway, uh, uh, then sewage, creating employment opportunity from all of those projects is a government's perspective. Now, next slide, please. So now there is a corporate perspective. So what is corporate perspective? Profit. So with the more you invest in land, then ultimate aim is to achieve more profit. When you that your stock prices go up, then lots of profit and your growth. And again, here also employment is also very important aspect. Now, next slide, please. Now yes, now next is land acquisition. So constitution on, so land acquisition, any country, if you look at it, there is a right of private property is recognized most of the countries except for some communized country. Otherwise, most of the countries have that right of property. Here in India also, constitution initially provided right of property as a fundamental right under Article 19(1)(f), and later, and even the courts also wider the fundamental rights under 19(1)(f) and expanded the purview. But then later, Parliament tried to curtail the same, and 19(1)(f) was omitted by 44th Amendment in Constitution of India with effect from 20th June 1979 by creating separate, so that provision was omitted, and separate chapter 4 under part 12 of Constitution of India was created with the heading right of property. So right to property under 300A was then no person shall be deprived of his property save by authority of law. So earlier it was fundamental right. Now it is only right of property save by authority of law. So you cannot deprive, so that when you take other meaning, that means you can deprive them by authority of law. So it is, so they cannot go to court and say that they cannot, unless without authority of law someone has displaced them, they can go to court, not otherwise. Next slide, please. Now this subject matter of land acquisition is in list 3 under 7th schedule of Constitution of India, which is concurrent list as entry 42 as acquisition or requisition of property. So when it is under concurrent list, as all of us know, that central government as well as state government can make the law with regard to that subject matter. Now, Article 254(2) of Constitution states that where a law made by the legislature of a state with respect to one of the matters enumerated in the concurrent list contains any provision repugnant to the provision of earlier law made by Parliament or an existing law with respect to that matter, then the laws so made by the legislature of such state shall, it has been reserved for the consideration of the President. So basically, with assent of President, amendment in central law can be made by the state. And this is very relevant provision so far as right to fair compensation act is concerned. So under the present government, state of Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and few other states have amended several labor laws, which was very recent act. They say it was like, I mean, taking this under COVID, that because of COVID circumstances, labor law requires to be modified. And that's why they amended the labor law by ordinances by taking under they're exercising their rights under Article 254(2) of Constitution. Now, similarly, land acquisition also, they have, some of the states have already done and other states are going to follow the suit. Now, next slide, please. So earlier, we have there are various legislation are there in India so far as land acquisition is concerned. But Land Acquisition Act 1894, which was a law passed by Imperial Legislative Council that governed the process of land acquisition in India until 2013, majority. So there are so many laws, but this was the main act. And still it is continues in Pakistan and Myanmar. It allows the acquisition of land for public purpose by a government agency from individual landowners after paying a government determined compensation to cover losses incurred by landowners from surrendering their land to the agency. There were various difficulties faced even after several amendments in that law. So this new act was brought into. So the Land Acquisition Rehabilitation and Resettlement Bill 2011 was introduced in Lok Sabha on 7 September 2011, passed by Lok Sabha on 29 August 2013, and by Rajya Sabha on 4 September 2013. And assent of the President was received on 27 September 2013, and Act came into force from 1st January 2014. This Act regulates land acquisition and lays down the procedure and rules for granting compensation. So there is a combination of two things, that is a compensation as well as rehabilitation and resettlement to the affected person from that land acquisition process. Earlier, under Land Acquisition Act, there was no provision for rehabilitation and resettlement, and that is a new feature in this act. So this is a composite act to cover all the aspects related to land acquisition. So now, what was the need for new law? So heightened public concern on land acquisition issues in India, absence of a cohesive national law that address fair compensation where private land is acquired for public use, and fair rehabilitation of land owners and those directly affected them loss of livelihoods. As like the all, I mean, some of us may know that earlier for rehabilitation, that was project to project that was coming into effect by some government. And when there was a World Bank funded project, ADB funded project. So those specifically, these provisions were getting, and then there was a inequality so far as compensation and these other facilities or benefits were concerned. So if acquisition was for one particular project and if it is funded by World Bank, they were getting those benefits. While if this was some other project and funded by just central government or any state government, they were not getting that benefit. So with this composite act, it is they are treating them equal, but like a little later we will see that still there is no equality because of some amendment in the law. So then next is yeah. So objective of the new Land Action Act 2013. So to ensure consultation and participation of local self-government and Gram Sabha established under the consultation, ensure transparent process for land action for industrialization, development of accession, infrastructure facilities, and urbanization with least disturbance to the owners of the land and other affected families, provide just and fair compensation to the affected families whose land has been acquired or proposed to be acquired or are affected by such acquisition, make adequate provision for such affected person for their rehabilitation and resettlement, to ensure that the cumulative outcome of compulsory acquisition should be that affected persons become partner in development, leading to an improvement in their post-acquisition social and economic status. So apart from compensation, monetary compensation, rehabilitation, there are provisions for employment in certain projects. So affected families, one of the members get employment in the project for which land has been acquired. And there are some lump sum payment apart from compensation, depending upon the project for which land has been acquired. Next, yeah. So what is the aim of land acquisition? So this act is very clear that aim of land acquisition is only public purpose and for no private purpose land can be acquired. So it should be only for public purpose. So what is the public purpose? So here there is a definition given. In definition, it is said that whatever is provided in section 2.1, so meaning of public purpose, this is public purpose. So now what are the public purpose? So if when we look at this, most of the purposes for which land can be acquired are included in the public purpose. And for like now, if we start with that for strategic purposes relating to naval, military, air force, police, then second is infrastructure projects. And what are the infrastructure projects? So there is a list, but that clearly excludes private hospitals, private educational institutions, and private hotels. So these are clearly excluded. So for those purposes, land cannot be acquired under this. Even for private companies, land cannot be acquired under this act. Yeah, please next slide. So project involving agro processing, supply of imports to agriculture, so warehousing, cold storage, so related to agriculture produces. The next is project for industrial corridors or mining activities, national investment and manufacturing zones, project for water harvesting and water conservation structure, project for government administrator, government aided educational and research schemes or institutions. Project in next, please. So yeah, project for sports, healthcare, tourism, transportation, any infrastructure facility as may be notified. So this is residuary clause, then any infrastructure as may be notified in this regard by the central government and after tabling. And this, when we say it's a say public purpose including, so it may, the government can add other public purposes also to include in this definition, but there are exclusion which clearly that for that private hospitals and other things, it cannot be done. Then apart from infrastructure projects, project affected families. So families affected due to land acquisition. So for that project, then project for housing for such income groups as may be specified from time to time by the appropriate government. Next, please. And now appropriate government is for state purpose is state government, for central it is central, and when there is a union territories, it's a central government is the appropriate authority. Project for plan development or the improvement of village sites, project for residential purposes to the poor or landless or to persons residing in areas affected by natural calamities or to person dispatched or affected by reason of the implementation of any scheme undertaken by the government. Next is to put it in a nutshell, any scheme project formulated for the purpose of defense, safety, police, infrastructure, agro-processing supplies, industrial corridors, educational institution, housing schemes, water conservation, improvements of rural and urban areas are considered as public purpose. Now, court's interpretation of public purpose. So, like it's from now, like I mean, under 1894 Act, there were that what was the public purpose? So because under that also land can be acquired for public purpose. So again and again there are several decisions on what is the public purpose. But when we look at it, landmark decisions, they say that it's a almost same view that public purpose is justifying exploration for companies would constitute conclusive evidence that the land in question was needed for a public purpose. The court would only intervene in cases of fraud or abuse of powers. So not otherwise. Where there is a allegation on fraud with some material on record, then only court will look at it, or there is abuse of power, or not otherwise. So this is a Bajirao T. Kote by LRs and another was a state of Maharashtra, 1995 to SCC 442. In this, the court ruled it is primarily for the state government to decide whether there exists public purpose or not, and it is not for the Supreme Court or the High Courts to evaluate the evidence and come to its own conclusion whether or not there is a public purpose. Now, then 2008-9 SCC. In this also, Supreme Court of India interpreted public purpose as including any purpose wherein even a fraction of the community may be interested or by which it may be benefited. So till then, courts had said that it is governments or appropriate authorities are supreme. So if they decide that there is a public purpose, then it is to be public purpose, and court is not equipped, or court would not interfere to decide whether it is public purpose or not. Only in case of, as we saw, fraud or there was abuse of power. Now, first, in Kedarnath Yadav versus State of West Bengal, which Mr. Anil Harish also mentioned about this case. So it is, I mean, all of us, we know about this, that in this case, Tata had acquired land, and land was acquired for Tata Motors in Singur village in West Bengal. And then court held that no, it's a for private company, it cannot be treated as public purpose just because it will create some employment. So it is, this is society, most vulnerable section of the society in the name of public purpose to promote socio-economic development is not acceptable. And Supreme Court cost the acquisition, and it was directed to return the land, and even in some cases it was directed that compensation paid not to be taken back. So that was a very landmark judgment, which was distinguishing from what was their view earlier. So now classification. So acquisition by the government for the government. So now, like when we see there are three aspects. So first is under the Act specifically provides that acquisition can be done for government, by the government, for the government, that is government's own use, hold and control for public purpose. So all for public purpose. It's in all three categories, it is public purpose. So including, so can you just go back just once? Sorry. Yeah. So for public sector undertaking, so it includes, so government includes public sector undertakings. Then second category is acquisition by the government for public-private partnership projects. So in public-private partnership projects, it may be partly government and partly private partnership and investment. So land will be acquired for those projects. Then third is acquisition by the government for private companies. So it is purely though public purpose, but it is project is by private companies. So in all three categories, common goal was public purpose. Land action by the government exclusively for its own use, hold and control. So what are the highlights of project under this category are compulsory acquisition, because compared to two other, here there is a purely compulsory acquisition, it's 100% compulsory acquisition, and landowners have no say or like their consents not required. Projects for strategic purpose related to defense, national security, for police, etc. Then exclusive use and control by government, and no consent of affected families required, but procedure under new act applies for acquisition proceedings, determination of compensation, rehabilitation and resettlement. So that is common for all the three categories, that procedure, what is procedure to be followed, and how to determine compensation and rehabilitation and resettlement. Now next slide please. So examples of some of the projects where it is by for government projects. So it's a defense establishments such as Army, Navy, Air Force, DRDO and others. So one of the like very prominent project is upcoming UP Defense Corridor project, is one such project being built to meet the modernization needs of the Indian Armed Force. Yeah, next slide please. For that project, it is said that it would promote indigenization and support the Make in India initiative, helping meet equipment requirement worth over $250 billion by 2025. It would also promote acceleration and development of MSMEs for the aerospace and defense sector, making UP a preferred destination for the purpose and boosting India's defense export. So like the Make in India is not just for defense, there are for so many aspects, like it is our Prime Minister's big dream that ultimately all of us should be use all the items, products which are made in India, and that is a very big initiative. So now Article 370. So earlier any of the laws were not, most of the laws were not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir, but after that Article 370, it's with the central law on land action being extended to Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The Jammu and Kashmir, otherwise when we look at the act specifically excludes, but with this now all the acts are applicable, and Jammu and Kashmir administration has withdrawn a 1971 circular that required a no objection certificate from its home department for requisition of land in favor of the Army, BSF, CRPF and other similar organizations. So such acquisition will now be covered under right to fair compensation and transparency land exchange regulation resettlement Act 2013. Yeah, next slide please. So now acquisition under the Act of 2013. Now what is the process? So under this new act, process is quite different compared to what we had in 1894 Act. 1894 process were comparatively simpler. So here there is a social impact assessment to start with. So initially there was always first it was preliminary notification. So now here it's a preliminary investigation instead of issuing notification. First preliminary investigation for determination of social impact and public purpose. So social impact assessment is done for to achieve so many aspects, whether it is for it is will be whether it's public purpose or not. For that, like that, there will be hearing, then study done by experts in consultation with the local municipal authorities of the affected area in pursuant to the notification. So first there will be notification will be issued, then there is a proposal. So there will be social impact assessment will be carried out. Next slide, please. So then sufficient opportunity of representation will be provided to all sections who are going to affected, and then comprehensive study is to be concluded in. So entire comprehensive study is to be concluded in a period of 6 months. And then detailed report is prepared, which becomes a public document. And this study includes A, B, C, D, E, F, that assessment as to whether the proposed acquisition serves public purpose, because that is the main objective of the act, that it should serve public purpose. Then estimation of affected families and the number of families among them likely to be displaced, extent of land, public and private houses, settlement, and other common properties likely to be affected, because again aim is to see that there is minimum displacement for the land acquisition. Then whether the extent of land proposed for acquisition is the absolute bare minimum extent needed for the project. Whether land acquisition at an alternate place has been considered and found not feasible. So most of the time what happened earlier in old act, what was happening, that preliminary notification issued, final notification issued, and then people will go to court and say that there was a land, vacant land available opposite to area which was acquired, and then court starts state the process. So here they said first you have all this process in place and find out, and then only take decision on acquisition. Then along with that, environmental impact assessment study, wherever it is applicable, shall also be carried out simultaneously and shall not be contingent upon the completion of social impact assessment study. But there are like that, there are some negative about this, because sometimes what has happened, all when they are doing this, that time itself there are environmentalist activists who then approach the court and everything gets stayed. So next slide please. Then public hearing is concluded, then detailed scheme for affected persons, families, publication of report, evaluation of report by an independent expert group by keeping the parameters as provided in section 8. So after entire this report and evaluation of report by independent expert group. So even during the assessment study, there are Gram Panchayat and local authorities are involved apart from the affected people. So that time it was involved. Then again evaluation of report by an independent expert group. So there are opportunities where if experts say no, so then there is no preliminary notification and matter ends there. So then only after evaluation of report by an independent expert group and approval by them, the next step comes, that is publication of preliminary notification. So then when they are satisfied that a legitimate and a bona fide public purpose involved, the preliminary notification proposing the acquisition of land is published. Here there is one more aspect, that like when there is a if they decide that in smaller group entire thing is fine, they can go ahead in small groups also for the acquisition, and not they don't have to wait for entire uh, stretch for which land is to be acquired. Yeah, next, yes. So next step is passing of award. So once this has happened, then there is a, there was a declaration. Once preliminary hearing is done, preliminary notification has been issued, then there is a hearing of objection, and then there is a declaration. And after in declaration itself, they have to give that what will be the resettlement and rehabilitation benefits will be given, and then there is a award is to be passed. So once scheme is reviewed and approved, the same shall be decided, declared, after which a survey is conducted, followed by inquiry, and thereafter an award is passed in accordance with the various provisions under the said Act, not just to ensure fair compensation, but also to ensure all the additional benefits of the rehabilitation and resettlement. Now, there is as I mentioned earlier, that there are several acts which govern the land acquisition in India. So, by Section 105 of this Act, there was an exclusion to 13 Act provided in Schedule 4. So, which and given they were directed to amend their laws within 1 year. But since those laws were not amended, there was amendment made in Section 105, and with effect from 1st January 2015, applicability of this Act limited to the extent of Schedule 1, 2, and 3, that is determination of compensation and rehabilitation and resettlement provision, are made applicable to this enactment, which are 13 enactment. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes. So these are the 13, which includes Metro Railway Construction of Works Act, Land Acquisition Mines Act, National Highways Act, Petroleum and Minerals, Pipeline Acquisition of Right of Users in Land Act. So all these acts, so I mean, we do lots of acquisition matters for National Highways Act. So those are, so it is only, so process they have to follow of under same act, respective acts, and only determination of compensation and resettlement provision they have to fall back on this act. So Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 and Schedule 3. So even like the Electricity Act and Railways Act is applicable. So only so other this assessment study and all other aspects are not required to be followed by acquisition for highways and railways and electricity and all this. It's not required. Next slide, please. Yes. So now, so we saw what was the like acquisition by government for government. Now acquisition by the government for public-private partnership, which is commonly known as PPP. Yes, need for PPPs. So we know that government doesn't have sufficient money. So they need money, like they need the investor, and that's why the need for PPPs. And we see that it is very popular nowadays, PPPs, in almost all the infrastructure project. This is very popular. So by end of 2030, 590 million people would be living in urban areas, which would amount to 40% of the population that would live in the urban areas, and cities would contribute to 69% of the country's GDP by 2030. So this has necessitated the creation of better infrastructure at a faster pace. So government alone cannot do that. So yeah, the process of competitive bidding and execution of large projects through PPP have emerged as a major factor contributing to India's economic growth globally. Yeah, next slide. Next slide, please, Soma. Soma, next slide, please. Soma. So basically PPP is a different method of procuring public service and infrastructure by combining the best of public and private sector with an emphasis on value for money and delivering quality service. So public sector facilitate land acquisition, land transfer to the private sector, since the same is associated with socio-political risk. So basically it helps to both. So public is public is benefited with public purpose project. Government also is getting like the infrastructure in place, and private players also making profit out of it. And as we know, this most of the projects like the National Highways project, those are public-private. So they collect toll. So I have seen that some of the projects, even they bid, there is a negative bidding. So they take the contract for constructing entire highway, and they make payment to government to make that road. So government investment is only so far as land acquisition is concerned, and then entire construction cost is borne by the concessionaire, because they are getting right to collect the toll for next 20 years or 25 years depending upon the terms of the contract. So ownership in this PPP project, ownership of the acquired land continues to vest with the government, and private entities do not get any right over the land, or they don't have any control. So only they have right to gain profit from the project and income, like na continuous. It may be by way of annuity or by toll. Yes. Next, please. Yes, so there are some of the examples of PPPs in India. I mean, I will just don't take much time on this, because we have already like not much time. So there are some of the examples. So Soma, may please go to next slide, please. So allocation of lands for PPPs. So I mean, as we discussed, like PPP projects is a very routine exercise in India, and majority of them have completed. The acquisition of land is obviously responsibility of the government. The respective state governments may formulate certain policies in order to mitigate the risk factor. Like Karnataka has formulated. So most of the states have formulated some certain policies for infrastructure project involving PPP, and it is quite favorite model for both the side. It's a government as well as private players. Soma, please next slide. Yes, so this is also PPP relates to delivery of public services by private entities. So leading state uses of PPPs by number of projects are Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, followed by Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. So now, I mean, just last point, I will just say that here, I mean, no doubt that previously taking possession of land for large projects involved several hassles, and it was time consuming. But with this new act coming into force, for PPP project, 70% prior consent for 70% of the land to be acquired is mandatory, and that's why major part is completed there with the consent, and you are more or less sure that this project will happen, because then only 30% requires to be, because then there will be, because the process for the consent, there are specific rules framed under this act where they say that once consent is given, they cannot withdraw that consent. So 70% consent is in place. So only 30%, though process is to be followed for acquisition, entire process is to be followed, but there is an assurance that 70% are not going to say no, and only 30% they have to deal with objections and other aspects. And there are there are decisions by the court that when majorities have accepted the acquisition for small section, court should not interfere and their objections won't be looked into it much. Uh, there are certain instances of PCPs where problems were enumerated prior to the commencement of said where like now that Delhi Gurgaon Expressway project, the government committed to promoters for providing a substantial area of land prior to actually acquiring the land. And due to thickly populated surrounding areas of the expressway, there were certain pockets of land that were difficult to acquire. This exposed the government to the risk of not providing the land within reasonable time in impacting the overall schedule of the project. It would have been better if uncontrollable risks such as these were addressed before the project procurement stage itself to ensure smooth functioning of the project. This could have been achieved by compelling the land acquisition process prior to the project procurement process itself. So what has, Soma, please next slide. So ultimately, they have to sometimes they have to abandon the project. So it is now when there is a 70% consent in this under new act, 70% consent is already in place. So at least land, and because as we saw that certain state governments have already framed the policy that unless you have possession of 70% or you have assurance that 70% land action is available, then only you can start the project. So here at least they have that 70% assurance. So and I mean, as all of us, again, we know that when there is a delay in acquisition process or there is a delay in taking possession of the land, then project cost increases to great extent. Then there is a dispute with the concessionaire or contractor, and which goes to court. There is a dispute with landowner. So any delay in land acquisition increases the cost and more dispute between the parties. So when this Mumbai Metro project lands proposed for acquisition were under private ownership and at times under dispute, this exposed the government to the risk of land not being available, thereby resulting in inaudited delay in commencement of construction of the project. So ultimately, I mean, fortunately, this issue was resolved, but there are instances where they had to abandon the project. Now, next slide, please. So now third category is acquisition by the government for private companies. So land acquisition is an unavoidable necessity for economic growth. And when there is a private companies have to do some project for public purpose, they need government's help to acquire the land. And so entire investment will be by private companies. So hurdle, so government policies which has tremendous invited a lot of foreign direct investment to the country. So private companies again, I mean, I have just one issue which we tried, but there is no such judgment. When they say private companies, so what about other entities? What is if it is public company? Because everywhere there is a in even definition. Definition is given is company under incorporated under Companies Act 1956. Now 2013 Act has come, and so what about companies incorporated under 2013 Act? That is a question, because definition of company under 2013 Act, Companies to, Act 2013, there is a it covers companies incorporated under 1956, but 1956 Act won't cover the companies incorporated under 2000, obviously. So that may be an issue if it comes. So now, like the hurdles faced in the past when there were acquisition for private companies, so land acquisition for Tata Engineering and locomotive companies, Nano project at Singur and Nandigram in West Bengal, acquisition of land for private company Tisco, Vedanta, POSCO at Orissa. The Nano project was shifted to Gujarat, and the prestigious POSCO steel project was abandoned, which is also known to public. Next slide, please. This time. Yes. Now, the next slide, please. We just try to finish it off. Yes. So there are certain relevant provisions of the 2013 Act. So there is a agriculture land. So what is the meaning of agriculture land is given in the law, but there very clearly they say no irrigated multi-crop land can be acquired except under exceptional circumstances and as a demonstrable last resort. And it is very very important point, and it's good for the country because now we are losing irrigated land, and agriculture is facing problem. So then acquisition of such agricultural land in the aggregate for all projects in a district. So in any district or state, appropriate authority will decide that no acquisition exceeds certain limit can be acquired by the government. So that is, and this is not applicable to linear projects like highway or pipeline for gas, because for that they need very small stretch of land and not entire portion of the land. Next slide, please. Then irrigation project. So what is, when there is an irrigation project, what are the requirements? So in lieu of compensation to be paid for land acquired, each affected family owning agricultural land in the affected area shall be allotted a minimum of 1 acre. So when there is an irrigation project, they are getting more benefit compared to other projects. Next slide, please. So acquisition of SC/ST land. So section 41 of the Act provides that as far as possible, no acquisition of land should be made in the scheduled area, and such acquisition only as a last resort. And prior consent of Panchayat, Gram Sabha, mandatory development plan to be prepared. So minimum 1/3. So certain amount of compensation is to be paid in advance. So basically to ensure that they are not in the difficulty and they are having the list problem. Next. Now lapse. So there are two provision under the Act where this talk about lapses. So section 14, the lapse of social impact assessment report. So when this report has been prepared, and then if government doesn't take expeditiously action steps, then that will lapse. So they say where a preliminary notification under section 11 is not issued within 12 months from the date of appraisal of the social impact assessment report, such report shall be deemed to have lapsed. So then they have to initiate the process afresh for entire assessment process, beginning from the issuance of notification. Then section 24. So land acquisition process under old LA Act shall be deemed to have lapsed in certain cases. So which I think again it's a very known, because it was in lawyers so especially know this, that where under section 24, that where acquisition proceedings initiated under the Roll Act but award not passed by 31st December 2013, because this act came into effect from 1st January 2014. So compensation to be determined under new act. Then where an award under section, so acquisition won't lapse, but the compensation is to be determined under new act. Then where an award under section 11 of old act has been made 5 years or more prior to the commencement of this act, but possession of the land has not been taken or the compensation has not been paid, proceedings shall be deemed to have lapsed. So now here, interestingly, court has taken, like Constitution bench of Honorable Supreme Court of India has taken a view that here where there is a written or, we have to read it as and, or we have to read it as nor. So either, so basically both the conditions should be fulfilled: possession not taken and uh, payment not made. Then only this will lapse. So if possession taken or payment made, then this will not lapse. Next slide, please. So this is the Honorable Supreme Court's Constitution Bench judgment, where it's very clear that what they have held. And so basically they say you don't have to, though it is written or, we have to read it as and or nor, and that's why it is not. So both the conditions should be fulfilled, then only it will be lapsed. So it is, I mean, positive. We have to take it positive for speedy acquisition point of view. Otherwise, entire process will go waste. Now, next slide, please. So it is also same, like, I mean, it's that judgment. What, because that judgment has covered so many issues under section 24, but like now for paucity of time, we won't. So next slide, please, Soma. Next slide, please. So now, recently, like now on 28th September 2020, while hearing one matter under section 24 of this act, Chief Justice of India, Justice Bobde, he observed that suppose there is a property of which, on commenting on this judgment by the Constitution Bench, that suppose there is a property on which the government has not taken possession and has not paid compensation, then the acquisition will lapse, that is clear. But if the government has taken over possession but not paid compensation, the FI judge says the acquisition will not lapse. But courts pose the question that for how long is the question. The bench said, adding, for how long if the government does not pay compensation, the acquisition will continue. And that question still remains even after judgment passed by the Constitution Bench. And now we have to wait for answer to this. Now, next slide, please. Now, difficulties under the Act. So, increase in the cost of land acquisition due to multi-layer compensation, because there are first, what is the market value? Market value, to take for market value, you have to take guidance value, then sales statistic, and whatever arrives on that, there is a multiplying factor. If it is rural, there is a different multiplier factor. If it is urban, there is a different multiplier factor. Then there is a solution of 100%, then 12% additional interest. So when we look at all this, in some cases, it comes to 4 times of the market value. So very heavy cost. So far as like now, when we say that though under this act, private company can also has benefit of land acquisition, but looking at cost, there is a doubt that how many private companies will be interested in making one project because of this cost of land acquisition. Then delaying completion of acquisition process due to lengthy process. One of the ambitious project of the current government, Mumbai Ahmedabad bullet train project, has also been suffering from severe strain in acquiring land since there is no uniformity on compensation. Again, because there are different, because it passes through 2 states and 1 union territory, and all 3 have different provision so far as compensation is concerned. So then there are some other instances where villagers in Jharkhand, they approached court. Now, main important, which I would like to emphasize, is state governments diluting the Act of 2013 by bringing state amendments to the Act of 2013, by exercising powers under Article 254 of Constitution of India, or by framing rules which are not in line with the Act. So now that Act's provision are diluted by so many states, and sometimes they are using their own act, like Karnataka is using Karnataka Industrial Area Development Corporation Development Act. Maharashtra is using their act. Next slide, please. So some of the states which have come up with the amendments are like in Maharashtra, only private project must adhere to consent and SIA requirement. So other projects like PPP project or government project, no, that is not required. While the Act provides that it is applicable to all the 3 category of acquisition. Then Tamil Nadu, there are amendment. basically exempting for SIA and consent requirement. Then Andhra Pradesh also, they have come up with the same amendment. Jharkhand, in Karnataka, they have come up with amendment which reverses most of the amendment, most of the provisions of the new act. So ultimately, they are trying to coming out of the, so to avoid the provisions. Next slide, please. So there are litigations already. So Karnataka High Court also petition is pending where this amendment has been challenged. Madras High Court also because there were acquisition under the state laws and not following this provision. So court said all the acquisitions from September 2013 under state laws were null and void and the land must be returned unless already in use. That judgment was challenged before the Honorable Supreme Court and Supreme Court has stayed. So now, so most of the states, this is the situation. So Supreme Court of India issued notice to the government of 5 states, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Telangana and Jharkhand on a petition filed by social activities challenging the amendments made by the state government. The petition claims that amendments made by several states have adversely affected the rights of livelihood of landowners and farmers. So these are the difficulties faced by now. Most of the states have different laws which they are using because they don't want to go through the severe laws in the Right to Fair Compensation Act. Next slide, please. So now our suggestion is, one is like there should be minimum interference and speedy disposal by courts to avoid delay in infrastructure projects. And amendment in the act making provision related to social impact assessment non-applicable in case of an acquisition for PPP projects, and private companies would speed up the process since the act already provides for consent of 70% consent taken for PPP projects, 80% taken for private companies. So now there is no need for further social impact assessment and all because consents have already been given. Now, so far as the amendment made by the state, for that we can't make any amendment in this act because constitution is above this law and constitution when permits. So there should be amendment in constitution and we can't make any amendment in this act to overcome the amendment made by the state government. Now I know I'm like, I mean, just one last remark that when I was talking about like, I mean, lawyer's perspective. So when we think about land acquisition, it's always litigation. And litigation is, I mean, various form of litigation. When at initial stage, when notification is issued, someone will file the approach High Court challenging issuance of notification, saying that land description is not proper. There is my name is not given. Then next process, then objection. So they say my objections were not considered, objections were not heard. Then when final notification issued, again that description is not not proper, nature of land is not shown correctly. So there are number of reasons for which they approach the court, and that's why it is very important that before issuance of notification, proper care is being taken. Then second thing is, again, like now when award is passed, after passing award also there are litigations for enhancement in compensation, again apportionment of compensation, who is entitled for the compensation. Again, in under this act, though there is a sometimes twofold and fold compensation is to be awarded apart from other facility under rehabilitation and resettlement provision, there is a provision that if someone not satisfied, then they can approach the competent authority seeking higher compensation. So that will ultimately delay the process and increase the cost by many fold, and that will affect the projects, and private player will try to remain away from this type of projects. Thank you. I mean, I have delayed the thing and Thank you. I conclude here. May I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so there is a first question that by Adhiraj Harish. Like the acquisition law provides for no income tax on compensation received. Has that substantially increased the willingness of landowners to give up their land? Quite interesting question. But as we know that there is a good incentive, but not good enough to leave the land or property for that purpose, just for getting tax exemption. So I don't think that people are willing to give away the land just because there is a no tax leviable on compensation amount. So compensation, but like now with new act, compensation itself is high. So we have seen the petition where they say that seeking direction from the Honorable High Court to acquire their unacquired land also. So there is some improvement, but it is for compensation and not for tax purpose. So next question is from Divya Alexander. She's asking, there was a news item stating that the bullet train project is being affected by land acquisition issue. Is this so? Yes, it is true. And like now, as of now, about 50 to 60% land has been acquired, and balance is still pending. But looks like they are serious with the project, because just few days ago they have opened the technical bids for steel item related project. So that means that is project should happen, but there is a delay. And as per their own, like the railway authority, they are saying that they are expecting completion of land action in next 6 months. That is what they are expecting as of what time frame they are giving. Next question is from Radhika Dolakia. She is asking, the procedure for Acquisition Act appears to be very time consuming. How long does it normally take in practice for land to be acquired? I would say it's about 2 to 3 years. We should take it. That is if there is no litigation. If litigation, then it may take longer, but otherwise 2 to 3 years minimum time will be required for litigation. Next question is from Abhimanyu Singh Rathod. So it's asking, is there a creamy layer exception to acquisition of land owned by a person belonging to SC/ST category? So this act does not provide any such exception for creamy layer. So it's a SC/SC category, it's same. There are certain judgments where this exception for creamy layer is given for employment or even study, like now for reservation, but not for this. There are no such provision. There is no provision. There are no judgments on this. So I do not think that there is any exception for creamy layer. And last question is from Swati Kapadia. Said land of individual person acquired for highway award past can application can for higher amount be made. Yes, it is. There is a provision, and it is under, if it is for national highway, then in that case section 3G5 of national highways provides that person aggrieved can apply to arbitrator appointed under that act for seeking higher compensation. Yeah. Yes.
So, ma'am, these two questions.
Yes.
One is